ICAN, Edwin, Ohaneze na Ndaife, gịnị ndị executive ofu na-agba, mbọ na-agba. Bọsị njere ịnụ nwaanyị na-aba aga, ọgọ nwoke Sadi Ụmụakwụkwọ mere so rest in peace. Ọ sị na njekọ ka esi ejegolita, njekọrịta ka esi atọ, ụtọ ka esi atọ ife. Sọsọ na unu na-etu a nzukọ akata tụgharị, o nwere ife olu, o nwere ife ọ na-aba doing jide ka iji wee ezigbo ife maka nwoke iji na-abịa. Onye nwoke jee ọjị olu eluigwe siri ike achọla dike. Owudu n'ọna ga-eme m ka spend that 1.7 million na gbahapụrụ egwu bịa Dallas. Ma o nwere ife m dara ime na ọ bụrụ nkata gị. Ada akwụ m ụgwọ as president general. O nwere ndị Southeast governor binyego m ofu moto. My Mercedes Jeep driver m bịa nata from Abuja ka m na-rush ka m catch a flight ka m meet appointment. Ya na ndị polisi buru ya nata stabilizer bolt ya gbapụ okpuru moto ba n'ime ọfịa. Ndozicha na ya buru anya Abuja sisi dobegode na nrụchara n'Ọhaneze na ọ ga-enwere moto nke a. Amarọ m na ọzọ na-eche tọndra m wee somersault ya ka o bu ndị ọrụ jere ịrụ ọrụ na my farm na Uke. It cost me 1.4 million to rebuild it. Nobody pays it. And it's easy to keep us here and expect us to give all of our time. Jay, it takes a man like you to make that kind of sacrifice. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say because can nobody by contract or say more over everybody. Because if you are going to have my proposal, I can walk. We are grateful to you. Thank you so much for your support. And I can, and we make a bound. Don't need your phone. I don't care. The distance you drove to come to Dallas as head of World Igbo Congress, you wanted to be here to show that World Igbo Congress identifies with what I can in Dallas for policy. And I believe that you also wanted to identify with me since I was here. I can't thank you enough. This is the characteristic of leadership. Sacrifice. What the world can use the Father of all. But the love of the Lord is everlasting, everlasting upon those who hold him in fear. In boy and sing. Ngoziga Birindina Turuchukwebu Esuzoya Aika Ifunu Neme Mba Odo Haneze Mba Makanankizizi. That's why I know Igbo. You are promoting Igbo values. In diaspora as you are, without a meeting here, our values will go into extinction. I sometimes wonder what claims your children can have to Igbo culture and heritage. Growing up in a foreign land, away from their local habitat, they are like the birds hanging down on the tree to which they perched. Unlike other birds, which perch on the tree and look upwards, but the birds look downwards. You neither belong to the sky nor to the ground. But because of ICAN, it is possible to groom them in our culture. Because in this country, after a while, Mrs. Clinton described it as the glass ceiling. After a while, you'll be reminded that your nationality has a qualification. There is a gauge beyond which it can go. And so your cultural underpinning, especially for your children, is so important for their reintegration where they belong, and for their capacity to claim their rights without being subjected to further discrimination in Nigeria as Ajebota or people who don't really belong because they are American rather than Nigerians, or Americans rather than Igbos. So don't despair. Don't despair, Okocha, in what ICAN is doing. It is fundamental for our children. This interaction that you have amongst yourselves, for the older generation, it rekindles your memory of the past. It reminds you of who you are. And for us, Choki and I, and others who came from Nigeria, it shows us that you are valuable to us. And that the unique advantages you have here, we can exploit it to the further development of our people. But make no mistake about it, we are in very, very dire situations. We belong to a country that is in very difficult times. Let's look at our economics. I'll take you through 11 indices, which Choki has explained here, but perhaps not in the way that I explained it. Foreign capital investment. Between 2014 and 2018, I'll take you through these indices. The foreign inflow of capital into our country has moved from $5 billion in 2014 to $2 billion in 2018. Unemployment in our country has risen from 6% in 2014 to 23% in 2018. Inflation has risen from 8% in 2014 to 11% in 2018. Gross domestic product has grown or fallen from 6% in 2014 to 2% in 2018. Debt to GDP ratio in percentage has grown from 12% in 2014 to 25% in 2018. Non-oil revenue in comparison to GDP in terms of percentage has been constant. 4% in 2014 and 4% in 2018. Debt service ratio to revenue has grown from some statistics from 27% in 2014, some say 60%, Bloomberg says 69%. Bloomberg's Economic African Performance Ranking. Among the African nations, we were number 12 in 2014. At the end of last year, we were number 25 in economic performance in the whole of Africa. And you call yourself the giant of Africa. Now, World Banking Business Ranking, doing business ranking, that is atmosphere of doing business. In 2014, we were number 147 in the world. In 2018, we are number 145. World Economic Forum, Davos, competitiveness. We ranked 127 in the world in 2014, improved to 115 in 2018. Transparency International, Transparency perception ranking. We were 136 in 2014. In 2018, we degenerated to 144. This is the country we are talking about. All those who have spoken to you today, you must bear in mind, and whatever you want to do in Nigeria, these statistics must be in the back of your mind. No investor puts his money where indices are highest. To make it worse, look at our political situation. The state of insecurity in our country is unprecedented since the British left us in 1960. There is not one of you who has a home in Nigeria that is not surrounded by bricks and mortars. A classmate of mine in London School of Economics, University of London, where I studied law, came to visit me in Nigeria. And he said to me, John, why do you have these walls akin to the fences of Holloway prisoners in London? As I grew up as a child, my father's fence were hibiscus flowers. When we moved homes, the next fence was cherry. I plucked cherry. And my father's private secretary, Mr. Bailey, a British man, he plucked my father's cherry and made red wines from them. That was my childhood in Nigeria. But today, everyone has to quarantine himself. Make his home a prison. Fences. Well, talk about recruitment of our leadership. No state government in Nigeria organizes a local government election and loses election of one councillor or one chairman of local government. It's always 100% victory. So the state electoral commissions are completely dishonest. They conduct elections non-transparent, non-reliable. A society that cannot recruit its leadership on the respect for adult suffrage at the minutest level of the council world is sick, insane, and a recipe for revolution. What about the National Electoral Commission? If it was improving, we will wait for the day of resurrection. But every day, it continues to deteriorate. Tell me any country in the world where you can have election, and 3 weeks after the election, we are still computing the results. And we are all afraid to speak to power. What we should do is our leader. You contribute to one. I had to take Uber to come here. I say it repeatedly because I will leave office in 18 months. But God forbid that anybody should occupy this kind of office and be treated the way I am treated. You get what you deserve. I've been minister twice. I became special assistant to the President of Nigeria at the age of 28. I became minister for civil aviation at 31. I became minister of information and culture at 54. I left Shehu Shagari's government with 30,000 naira in my account. I was privileged to have a background that gave me economic stability. And so I was averse to corruption. But there is a limit to which people can. How are we sure that my successor will have the same background? I live in the house that my father built when I was a standard one. It is a plumb GRA in Enugu. So I am insulated from the want, the avarice, the incentive to be corrupt. But how many are we who are so insulated? If you want good leadership, you must be gradual. You make our leaders corrupt by not catering for them. This is not only happening in Igbo land, it's happening in the whole of Nigeria. Look at the people here. So qualified in their various disciplines, so contented in their income and credit, so fulfilled in the achievement of their children, but totally without impact in the country of their origin. Because the political system will not recognize them. Not just because the political system will not recognize them, but because you have refused to do what the Brigade of Guards for the Queen of England has its word. He who dares wins. What did it take us to have Biafra Island? What does it take us to have a rescue team for Roland? You are also scared of taking the risk of losing your security. How did we win independence? How did Nelson Mandela sacrifice himself to go to prison in order to have South Africa as one of the leading economies in the world? Why are you not ready to come and swim in turbulent waters and change our trajectory? Who is going to do it for us? You say the politicians are not doing well. You say the governors are not doing well. Where people come from America to become governors in the Southeast, how well do they do? Because there was no team that sponsored them that says, enough is enough. We have not respected our rules. How long shall we be in this situation without getting to the ring to have a fight? President of ICANN, you and your wife are watching. You're not listening. If this organization must deserve recognition, without affiliation to Ohaneze, I expect my money to come to you because I felt not only do I have consanguinity with Dallas Fort Worth, but I feel that people like you can change our situation. And I felt that interacting with you can stimulate you to do more than you are doing. Yes, you made a statement in Imo State. Can it be sustained? It cannot be sustained without support. All I joke is telling us here. The foreign capital can be raised here. Money goes where there is profit. Once the feasibility study shows that there will be profit, the money will come. And it doesn't respect territorial boundaries. And you know that better than I do. But you're not stimulated enough to lose guard of your selfishness and plunge yourself into the societal pursuits. Look, our education cannot sustain what my friend wants to do in our life. When I was growing up, I was born the first year my father won election into the Eastern Nigerian House of Assembly. My classmate in my primary school was a young man called Peter Enijeri. Peter was junior brother to James Enijeri, who was my father's brother. There was no school for the minister's son and another one for the driver's brother. We all went to the same public schools. The standards were the same. Peter ended up the permanent secretary in Enugu State. I ended up as a two-time minister. When I went to secondary school, in one of the best secondary schools in Igbo, College of Immaculate Conception, we were trained by Maris brothers who came from England. When we went there, 2 classmates of mine were recipients of my father's scholarship. I will come to them. But CIC was one of the best secondary schools. My father went to government college. My brother Okwesili, who became governor, went to government college in one. My brother John and I went to CIC. And I can see the benefits of the two traditions. Umuahia had the cadet school, which regimented them, made them, speaking from point of view of qualitativeness, this good, very well disciplined, but robots. But CIC had the versatility that made you think out of the box. Forgive me for looking but look, whether it was in government college or Africa or in CIC, was Holy Ghost to where the facilities were the same.
Kidding me.
I studied law and economics.
What the premier school?
The best I read of a science textbook was in 1970. I was to take my school certificate exam in 1968, but because of the war, I took it in 1970. But I remember my chemistry, even now. Chemistry was all about chemical reactions. I remember oxidation, reduction, double decomposition, lateral displacement of radicals, crystallization. I remember fractional distillation operation. Because I went to the correct secondary school. But I asked you, Jay, sit down here. I asked you, your cousins at home, what kind of schools are these? Are the standards the same as you went to? Now I ask you, those of you who are in this school, I stopped coming to the meeting of World Igbo Congress until my friend became the head of World Igbo Congress. Because I raised in their meeting two challenges. I said, look, your children are like the banks. They are neither Americans nor Nigerians. Why don't you make them benefit from the two systems? Come and build a secondary school in Nigeria, which gives your children first right of admission. And you give a certain percentage to Nigerian children so that they can have mates at home. With your connection here, you can attract teachers from America, equipment from America, so that the secondary school has standards that are international. Nobody listens to me. And so your children, you born them here, they don't speak Igbo, they don't know where they come from. In the end, they are neither accepted as Americans nor accepted as Nigerians. What does it cost to build one of such secondary schools in each of the 7 Igbo states? It's nothing compared to what you in America can do. May number one. No, you're not ready to do it. And as you clap for me now, you will form no committee to think about how to do this. And needless to say, there are many others in Nigeria who would like to support you to do this, to improve the quality of our education, so that our children can know that we used to have it better when the white man was. Why can't we do it? My father built a secondary school in my home, supported a second one for girls because girls were not going to school. My father can build 2 secondary schools in my home. Alone! Why can't all of you build 7 secondary schools in your home? What does it cost a month for you to do that? You are just not patriotic enough. I'm sorry to say so, but that's the reality. You are so comfortable and selfish in your comfort that you're not thinking of what about. Finally, I have already talked about our constitutional structure. You all know it is a ploy to leave some sections of our country under political servitude. We're already confronting it, but you can do a lot more by helping us. The world is a village, and policies of countries all over the world are affected by international norms and conventions entered into by various countries who are members of United Nations and other international bodies. Some countries in Africa defy these agreements. They continue to do the things that are against fundamental human rights, that play on basic civil liberties. Great world bodies like the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the US government as an institution through its agencies in the Congress and the Executive are agencies through which we can bring a salutary effect on countries that do not respect these conventions. What can you do to help us in that space? Especially with regard to having a constitution in a country which is not derived through a democratic process, but through a military process, and which continues to be sustained. What lobby have you done? At various fora next door to you. What are the challenges? In conclusion, I pose 7 challenges to you. Number 1, our country cannot grow without the growth of the private sector. What these gentlemen who are paid their way to come to talk to you about initiatives they are promoting in the private sector is saying, look at the wealth of the private sector in this country and that of the public sector. And you know that for any developed country in the world, the engine of growth is the private sector. Begin to think about building the private sector in our country. Number 2, invest in education. I've already dealt with this. Begin to think about diaspora schools. I share a common patrimony in Dallas Fort Worth. If Igbos in Dallas Fort Worth want to start a secondary school in any part of Igbo land, give me the responsibility to get land for you, to get government approval for you, and to get other Igbos in Nigeria to put matching funds for you. Let's begin there. Number 3, why is it that we don't trust each other? Everyone who is doing business here wants to do it alone. What Chioke is telling us is not possible without combines. Why can't we do combines? Little drops of water, they say, make an ocean. Even great companies in the world, when they can't find money, they take the venture stock, which is just a loan. They do public offers. They sell part of their wealth to the public. Come and share in our profit. So long as the prospectus is right, within a year or 2, you will become a millionaire if you invest in it. But no Igbo man trusts the other.
No, that's the
How can other people trust you if you don't trust yourselves? If it starts in Dallas Fort Worth, you would have done Igbo land a great deal of favor. Why don't we? I hear all these big projects. They are wonderful. But why don't we start from the little places where we have what I call comparative advantage? I went to Malaysia. We grow palm oil in the southeast. And Dr. Azikiwe and Dr. Bara use it to build infrastructure of Igbo. They built University of Nigeria and Nsukka with it. They fired the coal mines and built the power company in Nigeria. Now, they built the first iron and steel complex in the whole of Black Africa. They built the first roofing sheet company, Thomas Asbestos, in the whole of Nigeria and West Africa. They built the first beer factory that was built by a government, other than the Nigerian breweries, that was built by a British company, making good just from palm kernel and its foreign revenue. What are we doing with it? There is so much palm produce wasting in Igbo land. If Malaysia can develop palm produce and become a contender in the world economy, why can't Igbo land do that? Do we need any government to do that? When I was growing up, oil mills existed in every rural area in Igbo land. We distill our own oil from our palm nuts. In Malaysia today, they use the cover of the palm nut as a substitute for gravel in rural roads because it has capacity to withstand stress more than stone. They use the stem of the palm produce, the palm branches, to make silk sheets. They hydrogenate the oil and bring, what do you call it, margarine, butter from it. They make perfumes from the oil distilled from the palm kernel. Can you imagine the product lines existing from a palm tree? Our own falls on the ground and is wasted. And you tell me your brains in America, brains that do not, they do not reflect on their origin. Something is wrong. What about vegetables? Every time I come here, I go to Kroger, I'm looking for okra. What is this other one we substitute for green vegetables? Spinach. I'm looking for it. They grow widely. They can be an export market. Who cares about it? Your knowledge is wasted when it cannot be deployed to productive ends, especially when they are wasting resources. Now, that's why I say use comparative advantage. What about our skills? The shoes we buy here, they make better shoes in our car. Why can't you? They tell me this time, maybe because I'm talking nonsense, but let me try and round up because I am in number 4 out of number 7. Now,
Finish up.
why can't you, as an organization, or as World Igbo Congress, decide we must do something about shoemakers? Let us try to infuse greater mechanical efficiency by importing technology from there to ensure that there is economies of scale. In other words, they produce more than they are producing, and with greater efficiency. Let's forget about the big projects that we've been told here, which are desirable, but let's start from there. What are we doing with it? Now, do you know that if you go to Aba or Onitsha and you take a spare part of a car, they can mold it for you. They do it in Italy. And it looks like the original. What machine tools do they need to produce it for the world so that it can be like China products? What can you do to make it possible for you? Are you thinking about it? Are you doing anything about it? And while I'm saying it, your leaders are having a conversation. They are not interested in it. No, I'm not joking. This is serious. the Deputy Publicity Secretary of Organization to issue a release about someone in Abia State whose 4 fingers were chopped off by Fulani herdsmen. Why do they come down in such numbers? People who may not even be Nigerians. Because we need their needs. You and I, who are privileged, can do without their needs. Because we can buy goods, we can buy chicken, but the ordinary man, the ordinary Igbo man cannot do that. It's the cheapest. When I was a child, University of Nigeria and Soka had a fattening project for Uturu, our local cow, in their faculty of agriculture. There was a farm in Uzuma that they were building. If you go to North Carolina, there is very good research for cow production. And I'm sure in many other parts of America. What are you doing to ensure that there is a crossbreeding between our local Uturu and some cows? At the most, it will take 10 years, and we will populate Nigeria with millions of cows derived from the Igbo Uturu. What are you doing? And every year we come and drink and talk, and everybody goes. And you think we have a future? I'm 67. My mother died at 69. If I live as long as my mother, I have 2 years to live. That's why I was telling my friend I was just a young man. My father died at 72. If I live as long as my father, I have 4.5 years. I lost my wife 5 years and 8 months ago. And I am liberated from the domestic chores to tie myself inextricably with the journey of liberation. If I had a wife, she wouldn't let me do this thankless job. But why should I be a John the Baptist in the wilderness when I have people like you? Are you thinking about our children and how to crossbreed it so that our children will not depend on any part of Nigeria for their needs? Our universities are ready to help you with this as a point of incubation. What about airport development? I was very happy when Peter Obi came to Prospector for support. And he gave me a wonderful plan of how working with APs and other Nigerian airlines, he was going to turn Enugu Airport into a hub in Africa. That if you have an airline in Africa, you cannot refuel or maintain your aircraft without landing in the airport. How he was going to develop a major warehouse where transportation of goods into our sub-region would need Enugu as a hub. I haven't seen that in your about project. Perhaps we need to borrow you in Enugu to come and sell us how to develop Enugu in that respect. And I've taken your card, and I'm going to work hard on it. What stops us from developing an integrated rail network from Asaba to Onitsha, from Onitsha to Oka, from Oka to Enugu, from Enugu to Abakaliki, from Abakaliki to Umuahia, from Umuahia to Owerri, from Owerri to Port Harcourt? Do you know the volume of goods and services that it will carry on a daily basis? And how it will grow a domestic economy independent of destruction from any external economy or any government policy? The mobility of goods and services is what all our economy needs to grow. Who is thinking of the global? How much did it take the Americans to do it? How much did it take our fathers to do it? Pre-independence. I was admitted for prelim to University of Ibadan. From University of Ibadan, Jos campus. I went back to Jos in railway transport from Ogui Road to Jos. And after 9 months, we were moved to Ibadan campus. And there was limited and local train. The limited one never had too many stops. The local one stopped at the place stop. And my parents just brought me to road, and they waved at me, and I was in the back of the phone. I mean, in the following day. It's no longer possible today. And it was fueled by coal. And you are all here. And they are sitting like one lazy monk. Excuse me. I took pictures of roads in this house. When they build roads, they build a concrete base reinforced by road. No amount of trailer destroys it. What does it take to attract a contractor that builds one of those roads here at Dallas? And let us go. Take me. Bring him. Let us go to the Southeast government. Allow this contractor to build roads in the states as well as their own. And let us charge toll gates. And they make their money within 5 years. With all humility, I offer you this challenge. Look, the federal government approved waterways throughout the River Niger channel. But they built, I don't know whether Jay does not like what I'm saying. But you're not listening. And you are the chairman of this forum. How will you write a report on what I have said? So, now, there are inland waterways on the River Niger which have not been dredged. But all the stations where the boats and the ships will stop have been built. But nobody has dredged the waterways. It was one of the issues that I presented to President Buhari when I get the Southeast government to see. The last government before him built the terminals, but did not dredge the waterways. And you can imagine what goods and services and mobility of factors of production that those waterways will carry all around them. Now, my brothers, I went to visit the governor of Bayelsa, and he told me that before he leaves office, he was going to build a road from Bayelsa and a bridge across the river up to Onitsha, in order to promote commerce between our people. And he reminded me that there is nobody in Bayelsa whose mother or wife does not have a relationship with Igbo or his Igbo. My brothers and sisters, we have to wake up from our slumber. Nobody can do it for us. This is the time that the Lord asked us to be here. And He has a reason for keeping us alive. If we don't do His will, our life will be useless. So, as I end this speech, I ask you to intone with me what we say when we are in our moments of depression in our church. So to we come down your Mm-hmm.